Hey everybody, welcome back to Here Pal Here. My name is Pal. I'm going to share with you guys some things I've learned over the past years playing guitar that I wish I had kind of learned earlier on. I've been playing guitar since I was 16, so it's going on 26 years now. And it's kind of an interesting thing that I'm mostly self-taught. I've had a few friends teach me some really cool things, and that's really kind of pushed me along the way and helped me a lot. But for the most part, I'm self-taught from books, videos, other people, etc. But never really had formal lessons. And I feel like there's a lot of things that I now know that if I had known earlier, I could have probably progressed a lot faster and learned a lot more things quickly. So today I'm just going to really give you, some of those things that I think are really helpful and that I wish I knew when I was especially starting out, or as a, I guess, like, maybe advanced beginner or, getting into that intermediate stage where you're not just a complete newbie. So yeah, I think, a couple things that I would really highly recommend is to focus on rhythm playing and chords and learning lots of chords. And I don't just mean the simple, kind of, C, D, G, kind of stuff like in the cowboy chord positions. Learning a lot more advanced chords and, some different chord voicings and going up the neck and getting really familiar with, smaller bits of chords, like even just simple triads and things like that, where you don't have to have like a full huge chord voicing, and definitely not just bar chords, which is just everything going all the way across, like leaving out strings and things like that, I think is really helpful. So one thing that especially in the beginning, for me being self-taught, that I always had trouble with was when I tried to learn how to read sheet music. A lot of the things that you start with, you kind of just learn, you end up learning the notes, roughly in that first, 4 or maybe 5 frets of the guitar. And then as soon as you kind of go past that point, you're really kind of lost, or for me, I was lost anyway. And you end up kind of, learning some of the notes, and you learn where some octaves are, or, where like cool, things can be done with like distortion or whatever, and you get the E and doubled like that, or stuff like that. You end up picking up, but you don't really feel comfortable or confident knowing where all the notes are. And I remember when I was learning basic things like the pentatonic minor, and I learned all the positions, the 5 positions of that. And I remembered, like, okay, great, now I can, just noodle really fast, like in these like 5 positions, because I know the shapes. But it didn't really make sense to me. Like, I still didn't know what to play. I didn't feel confident soloing over anything. I would just, kind of like run through my shapes as quick as I could. And, sometimes it would sound okay and sometimes it wouldn't. And I really had no idea why, and I didn't understand what made it sound good, or what notes, why sometimes the same note will sound great and sometimes it will just kind of sound awkward and weird. And I think learning chords and some basic music theory really goes a long way to helping you really be able to understand which notes to play. So a couple things that I want to show you guys is these great books that I have. I'll probably do a video where I talk specifically about this book too, because I think this for me was a super helpful book, and I learned a ton of stuff from here. And to be honest, I've never gone past maybe about the halfway point of the book, and I'm just now kind of starting to get back into it. But even just the first half of this book has been immensely helpful, and I've learned tons and tons of stuff from here. This is by a guy called Arnie Berle. I don't know anything about him besides that he wrote this book. I kind of picked it up on a whim, as well as one other book which I really haven't gotten into. But this is basically chords and progressions for jazz and popular guitar, and find this super helpful. And then just something like this, the Chord Bible, Guitar Chord Bible. This is by Phil Capone. I got this as a gift, if I remember right, from my brother. And this is just basically like a book of chords and an explanation of where you would use them, how you would use them, etc. And one of the things that I found really helpful from both of these books is that they show you not just a chord shape. So not just like, okay, here's, A major 7, and then, that's it. It's just, you also kind of learn which notes are, which part of the chord. So you learn that, this is the root, this is the 7th, this is the 3rd, and this is the 5th. And then when you learn the different chords, you learn where, each one of those chord elements is. And that really becomes helpful, and I think far more helpful than just learning a bunch of like scale shapes and not really understanding which notes are, which part of the scale. So what I mean by that is like, what is the root, what is the 3rd, what is the flat 3rd, what is the 4th, 5th, etc. I think it's really helpful to know where those are. And when you're playing over something that's maybe a major chord, you don't want to play the flat 3rd because it's going to sound weird, it's going to sound dissonant, because there's going to be a major 3rd in the chord as well. So maybe you could do it for an effect or something. I mean, there are times where you might want to do that, but just as a general rule, you might be helping yourself avoid kind of hitting sour notes by knowing where these notes are in the chord. And when you start seeing them, you learn a bunch of different shapes. And one thing that really helped me move up the neck and learn the notes and get more comfortable is learning the inversions of chords. So if you have something like the A major 7, then knowing that you can go here and play the next inversion, from the 3rd, that is like really helpful. And then again, you kind of realize, okay, this is the 3rd, this is the root, the 5th, and there's the 7th. And learning that instead of just memorizing the shape, but actually learning which notes, are part of the scale that make up that chord, I think is really, really helpful. And if nothing else, just learning where all the roots are is actually really helpful, because when you're soloing, the root is pretty much usually always safe, like whatever chord you're on. And those are kind of like little safe spaces that you can find. And using the book here, especially this one by Arnie Berle, I was able to kind of learn enough of these chords and start, kind of finding where those roots are and finding the relation of the other notes to that root note a lot easier and a lot quicker by learning those inversions. So when you look at the guitar and you know that you have a root and an octave, 2 frets away, 2 strings higher, that was really helpful to me. Same thing going from the D string and then finding the same root on the high E string 2 frets down. That was really helpful. Same thing from here to here. Finding these is really helpful. And then when you know that you can find the 5th from here by just going down to the next string, that is really helpful. Kind of like finding these shapes, like going to the 3rd here, and seeing those, and then learning all the inversions and where they all fall was really, really helpful to me. So I would pretty much just encourage everybody to try and learn a little bit of theory, get into some of these kind of books. There's so many wonderful videos now online for free all over YouTube. There's so many great, wonderful teachers that I just find so helpful, and I wish this stuff was around when I was first starting out. It was incredibly frustrating trying to learn this stuff by myself or from a book or just from well-meaning people that maybe didn't understand it as well either. Yeah, I mean, I wish I knew this stuff starting out. I think it would have been really, really helpful. So I think, yeah, to sum up, the video, my idea is that it's way more important to learn chords and inversions and simplified versions of chords like the triads, where you just have like the 3 notes that are kind of the key notes that make up the chord and give it the quality of the chord you're looking for. So for example, if you want to play a major chord, just a straight regular major chord, it's made up of the root, the 3rd, and the 5th. And you know, a lot of times we start out playing guitar, you learn like a G major. What you end up having is you have a repeated bunch of notes. So you have a root, you have a third, you have a fifth, and then you have another what is this? Another fifth and another root here. So you have like a bunch of notes that are repeated, often kind of giving you a full sound, and it's nice when you're playing unaccompanied, especially if you're doing like an acoustic kind of thing and you want to fill up a lot of space. But when you're playing with a band and playing with other instruments, sometimes maybe you're taking up too much space and you want to be able to give other people more space, a bass player, a keyboard player, another guitar player, a singer, whatever. And learning how to give that feeling of that chord by just playing part of it is actually, you know, really helpful. So instead of playing the full, you know, G, you could just play just that, and that is still the G major. You're only playing the root, the fifth, and the third. And learning those triads kind of all over the neck is really, really helpful. I'm still actually in the process of doing that. I can't even do it very comfortably for you know, for all you know, all the positions really quickly, and I'm still just working on that right now, and I think it's really helpful. And then of course learning those same things for the different chord qualities, so going to a minor chord, seventh chord, a minor seventh chord, you know, a sixth chord, whatever other kinds of things you want to do, it's actually really helpful sometimes. And you can leave out the root, so you can even just do a triad for a you know, major seventh chord or something like that, and you could just play the third, the fifth, and the seventh, and not play the root, because maybe in a lot of band situations, a bass would be playing that, or a keyboard might be giving you the root, and you don't even need it, and you get more space. There's a lot of cool, you know, funk guitar players, and you know, just a bunch of great like jazz people that will give you kind of a good idea of what I'm talking about if you listen for what they're playing and check out what they're doing. It frees up you as a guitar player as well, that you can do some additional kind of melody on top of the basic chords, so you can, you know, do a whole bunch of other kinds of things. And learning chords, I think one of the best things about it is that by learning kind of chords all over the neck, you end up unlocking the neck a lot better for yourself. You get to learn the notes all over the neck instead of just that main, you know, maybe 4 or 5 frets at the bottom of the guitar. And what it also allows you to do is you just get more creative, because you can end up playing a lot of things that you wouldn't normally kind of you know, feel confident in. Sometimes you're inspired by just learning a new chord. For me, like almost every time I've ever learned a new chord and become comfortable with it, it actually has helped me write a new song, or come up with a new you know, song snippet, or an idea at least, or a fragment for a song. I remember when one of my friends showed me the 13th chord, I pretty much immediately ended up writing a song out of this. So it was like, I went to the Jimi Hendrix chord, which another friend of mine had taught me as well. So I ended up incorporating several chords. And in that song that I came up with, I ended up kind of making up a bunch of new chords for myself that I to this day don't even know what these are, but they ended up fitting well. And it was just really inspiring to learn just this one chord, you know. I remember when I learned the minor seventh chord, I wrote a song with my friends based on that as well. I just... So you can just you just end up feeling way more inspired and wanting to come up with cool stuff and play things, because until then I had never, you know, played the minor seventh chord, and I just thought it sounded really cool, and it made me think of, you know, this new pattern. And yeah, it's just really interesting. And I remember that helped me when I was learning how to do you know, learning songs by other bands. So when I was really into Black Sabbath with my first band with my friends, we did a lot of Black Sabbath covers, and I remember using that minor seventh chord in oh shoot, what is it, Behind the Wall of Sleep, like. I just thought that was so cool that, like, you know, you can just learn a new chord and then it helps you even learn other songs. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys liked the video. If you did, please do give it a thumbs up, and let me know what you have found helpful, or if you've been playing for a while, maybe some of this stuff was obvious to you. It was certainly not obvious to me, and I think it's really like one of those things that if I had known this stuff way earlier on, like I wish I had had somebody teach me this stuff when I was 16, 17. I think I would have gone a lot farther, a lot quicker. And, just it would have helped my creativity, and also confidence in moving around the fretboard and really finding the more of the right notes. I still feel like I hit a lot of the wrong notes, and it's very much still a learning curve for me. I feel like playing guitar, you're never done. I still feel like there's so much more stuff that I want to learn. Like I can't even begin to fathom like at what point I'll feel like, oh yeah, I'm pretty good. Like I just still feel like there's so much more to learn, and there's so many inspiring players out there. So hopefully this is inspiring to you, and yeah, I guess that's it for now. Please do subscribe if you like this video, and I'll see you in another video soon. Bye.